Bam, we're live.
Boom.
When I knew Rob, he had my hair and I had his hair, and for the show we traded wigs.
Yeah, no, I've got.
Hair. You stole my hair, and you used to have this hair. Look at this thing, short and tight, and
But it's nice and salt and pepper though. It looks good.
yeah. Thank you. You pay extra for that kind of work, supercut work.
Yeah, it looks good. Looks good, pal.
So before we start with Rob Orlando, I just want to tell you guys that most of you will not and cannot have a successful podcast career like me because you just aren't as cool as fucking me. And so you should probably go to barbelljobs.com and get a real job and until you're have met enough people and can run a successful podcast like me that makes $25 a day on YouTube, which is enough to keep my family afloat. Thank you. Rob, what's up, dude?
How you doing, Sevan?
Good.
That was a great intro.
Thank you. You got to take care of the sponsors. You got to treat them right. Rob, what's your Instagram? Even though you don't use that shit.
Yeah, I don't. That's actually it's CrossFit Robbo is my Instagram, and then I also have Hybrid Athletics. So those are the two.
Does that look right?
That's the one.
It's great having me on the show. You don't have to worry about like doing any of this like before the show. Like no one can yell at you for being sloppy or just.
I wouldn't yell at you anyway.
Oh, thank you. But I mean, like if you were my boss, you would. Like,
yeah.
Dude, can't get that shit figured out before the show starts.
Yeah.
What I do take seriously though is the fact that you've given your time. It's 10 a.m. on the eastern side of the United States. That's where you're at, right?
Yes, sir.
How is the eastern side of the United States? I hear. Are you in Massachusetts?
No, we're in Connecticut, which is it's like New York City and Boston's Grundle.
Okay.
It's Connecticut. There's a sign when you're driving down 95, coming from Rhode Island into Connecticut. There's a sign on the highway that says attractions, and there's nothing underneath it.
Oh, that's perfect. Is that on purpose so people won't stop?
There's nothing here. There's nothing here except lots of trees, and there's not much going on here.
I think most of you know who Rob is or have some idea. You don't know who he is, but like in your brain, you have him compartmentalized in this identity. I met Rob. I think I was at Tanya Wagner's house. I know Rob has heard the story 1,000 times. I was at Tanya Wagner's house, and this was 2008 or 9, and we were looking at the profiles of some of the CrossFit Games athletes. What year was that? What year was your first year in the games? 09?
2009, yeah.
Yeah. So it must have been 2008 or early 2009 before the CrossFit Games, and we were looking at profiles. And I think I had Dave Castro on the phone, and I think Carrie and Josh Wagner and Tanya Wagner and Dave was on speakerphone, and Carrie Peterson and I were looking at Rob's profile, and we were in Pennsylvania at the time, or just outside of Philly at Tanya's house. And we were looking at Rob's profile, and we were all laughing like that there could actually be a profile like this guy doesn't think we're going to come up and check his shit, because it just all the numbers look like lies to us.
Yeah. So yeah, and then you actually cold called me and said, "Hey, we're close by. Can we swing by and hang out for a day?" Yeah, sure. So you and Carrie came up. You filmed a class at the original Hybrid Athletics, and then we spent some time. We did a workout, went out to lunch, and I think the whole thing was just you trying to figure out if I was bullshit or not.
Correct. and it was awesome because none of the numbers were lies, and Rob put on a crazy show. And over the years on .com, we saw crazy things. I think one time, Rob, did you front squat or back squat 200 pounds for 100 reps or something, or body weight?
That was body weight back squat. So it was 205 for 102 consecutive reps.
Yeah. And he would do all sorts of things like that he would probably tell you now don't do.
Yeah, no, like there was some of them that were, they were just fun circus tricks, like one arm Fran. That was another one. I did the thrusters with my left hand, I think, and the pull-ups with my right hand. Those, they don't leave a mark, but 100 consecutive back squats at your body weight, I would never tell or encourage anyone to do that.
What year did you do that?
That was probably in 2010, I would say, because it was right before. Yeah, it was probably 2010.
Are you recovered? It's been 11 years.
Just yesterday, I finished.
What do you think about all the protein guys right now? Have you seen this guy Liver King? Since you're not on social media, you might see it. Have you seen this guy Liver King pop up on the scene?
I have. There's a couple of guys in my gym that, as kind of a goof, they send me stuff of his, and I'm not on social media. I really don't pay attention much at all. I kind of put out the content that I need to for business purposes, but I'm not. I try to stay off of it because I just think it's mostly poison. But that guy Liver King is. I mean, he's got a thing going, I guess.
I mean, from the outside looking in, he's fully embraced it. I knew about him years ago before I had ever seen him. I had started the carnivore diet because of Paul Saladino, the carnivore MD, and I basically used the carnivore diet to get completely off of sugar. I had heard that if I went into ketosis, that I would stop craving sugar, and I had to figure out how to do it. So I just tricked myself by saying, okay, I can eat as much meat and hard cheese as I want. And after 2 weeks, I went into ketosis, and it was crazy. At night, all my cravings for carbs just like vanished. It was nuts. And it just switched to fat. It was like so liberating. I wish I would have done it in my 30s. But it was hard. It was a tough 2 weeks. And then after a few months, something wasn't right. My hands didn't feel right. My feet didn't feel right. My heart wasn't functioning right. I could tell something wasn't right. And I had Paul on the podcast, Paul Saladino, I think, and he started telling me about his supplements, the Heart and Soil and the Ancestral supplements. And it's basically, I'm going to say the word wrong. It's basically dried organ meat. There's a word for it. Is it desecrated? The fuck does desecrate mean?
Desecrate is it's a derogatory word.
So I hope it's not desecrated. Desecrated to treat with violent disrespect. Nah, it's not desecrated meat. Come on, someone in the comments tell me what this is. What is this? Not dehydrated. No, not dehydrated. Thank you, Will. I appreciate it. 7:07 a.m. You're coming in strong for me. Anyway, and right away, within hours, I was feeling better. And basically, as I studied more, that there's basically shit that you need, and you can get it from organ meat. And desiccated. Thank you, Renata Novan. Is that really your name?
That's Renata. Is that one? That's one of my members.
Oh, really? Awesome. Yeah. Renata Novantana.
She's awesome.
Is she Indian?
Superstar. No, she's from Europe.
Wow, that's a perfect name. She should be like a tennis player.
She's one of the strongest females in our gym.
That's awesome. Well, thank you. And her brain functions better than mine. Desiccated. What did I say? Desecrated. Oh, God, I hope my mom isn't listening. I'm letting her down. Anyway, and now this guy's just eating balls on Instagram. Did someone send you that where he's just got the fresh set of cow balls and he's eating them?
No, I mean, I've seen him take bites into stuff before, and it's not for me. It's not for me.
You're not tempted at all?
No.
The big bowl of raw liver with some salt and maple syrup. You could probably get the maple syrup from the trees at your house. Just poke it.
Just put a little tap in.
Yeah.
No, I got to tell you, like the way I eat, the way I kind of I live these days, it's really it's so simple and it's doable, and it's not. I'm just every bit of a regular person, and there's nothing special about anything that I do anymore. It's there's no eating to perform. It's just try to be balanced. Try to eat a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a decent amount of protein with every meal. But I haven't counted or done macros or looked at calories in years at this point.
Which is kind of hopeful for some people because you used to be fat.
I was pretty heavy. Yeah.
You were fat. You were pretty fat.
I was fat. Well, I had that,
strong as shit, but fat, just like a truck with tires that are too big for it. But the guy still thinks it's cool.
I look like a TV with hair.
What's a TD?
A TV with hair.
Oh yeah, yes.
But yeah, no. So I was 5'8", 230 pounds for a long time, and I lost a bunch of weight when I started doing CrossFit because I just needed to be healthier. And, fast forward since I started CrossFit in 2007, I've gone up and down in the weight range, but it's usually between 185 and 200. But now I've been at 193, maybe for 4 years or so, and it doesn't fluctuate. I can go completely off the rails for weeks at a time, although it never lasts that long. And I can rein it in, and it fluctuates 2 pounds. It just doesn't move anymore.
Are those habits? Did that all happen just because over the years you were disciplined? You did fight off cravings. You did build discipline and habit. Is that why it's like that now?
It's a weird thing. Like, I don't really have cravings. I hear people talk about that, and it's not. And maybe it's because I was disciplined for so long, but I don't have cravings because I don't live without anything. There's nothing that I'm like, oh, I want that, and I'm going to deny myself that. I eat a bagel every day. I have rice. I drink beer. I drink way too much vodka. I'm literally a normal person that I am not dialed into any constraint at all. So there's no real craving there. It's not like I don't crave candy. I'm not a sweets guy. I'm much more into, like, if you give me a loaf of bread with butter, like that's my go-to.
Stand back.
Yeah. Yeah. But for the most part, like I don't really have cravings. It doesn't make a connection with me.
Are you training hard still?
Very. Yeah.
What is it? Is that for mental health issues, or?
That's what I like to do.
Yeah.
I like to, I still lift heavy most of the time. I breathe heavy a lot. I do a lot of burpees. So I still train really hard, but it's interesting. The further I get away from the competition side of things, the more, the less I compete with anybody at the gym. I'm just not interested. I just want to go and beat myself down a little bit and be, a fraction of a percent better than I was yesterday.
Yeah, me too. I like to do burpees too. I like to beat myself down with burpees too.
Yeah.
I really like them. Do you know why you like them?
I don't know, other than like it's a simple movement that everybody should be doing through old age, right? Get down, get up, and do it over and over and over. And I think there's probably some interesting metaphors in there, but I just think that it's an easy thing to plunk into any workout, and you can change the intensity of the workout pretty quickly.
What time do you work out at?
All over the place.
Ever early in the morning?
Yeah. Yep.
How old are you?
46, almost 47.
You can do that? You can get up like at 6, have a cup of coffee and work out?
Yeah.
Damn, I can't do that. Something will break. Like whenever I do that, I like injure myself.
So on Thursday, just a couple days ago, I had to coach the 6:30 class and 6:30 a.m. class. So I got up at 5:30. I had a cup of coffee, got to the gym, and the workout was devil's press and 200-meter runs with a little bit.
Devil's press is burpees with dumbbells?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Devil's press and
what was the rest? Sorry, I interrupted you. Devil's press and what?
And 200-meter shuttle runs. And you had to, so it was a 1-minute AMRAP devil's press right into a minute rest, and then a 200-meter shuttle run followed by a minute of rest. And you had to repeat that until you got to 65 reps on the devil's press. And the run, just because I think it was 200 meters, it wasn't all that long, strapped on a vest for the run just to make it a little bit more burden. And I actually improved on because I've done this before. So I improved on my time from last time by quite a bit. And that's at 6:30 in the morning. And then I jumped on my dirt bike and rode my dirt bike for hours. And I think we did 60 miles that day.
Holy cow.
Yeah. So I've been getting more and more into the dirt bike thing. And, it's pretty physical, it's good for me to get out of the gym and do something physical.
Are you retired
from CrossFit?
No, like, are you independently wealthy?
Negative. I still work. I still get up really early, and I still I'm creating a bunch of things, and I've got some products in the hopper, and I've got some things that I've launched, and there's always something going on.
Yeah. But maybe I'm not asking it right. But something is right if you're able to get up in the morning, work out, and ride your motorcycle 60 miles. Something's right.
Yeah, no, this is by far and away the best position that I've ever been in my life on all fronts. Okay. Like
You're still married.
I'm still married to the girl that I was in high school with, that we dated in high
Awesome.
school. Right. So
Uh-huh.
we're 23 years.
Congrats.
Thank you. I've got 2 kids that are, my son is almost 16. My daughter's 12 and a half. Both of my kids are really, really smart, straight A students.
Wow.
They work out hard. They're focused. And most importantly, I think they're polite. Like both of them are really polite, nice kids.
You can take them out. They're not dogs that bite or pee on
Yeah.
people's shit at the beach.
Yeah, no, they're just nice people. And
by the way, if you have nice kids, then you've made it to the 99-yard line. The whole thing you want to be able to do is take your kids out. It's the exact same with the dog. Like, you know, that surfer dude who has the collie that can just run around with no leash and he just listens and jumps in the convertible. If you have good kids, it's that, and you always wanted that dog. That's what good kids is like.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people will leave their kids home when they go to the grocery store. If you have good kids, you're like, hey, let's go. Because everything is about hanging out with them. If you don't have good kids, and by the way, I think that's your fault. I believe. Oh, my mom just typed in desiccate. Damn, she is listening. Anyway, congratulations on having good kids. It's huge. It's huge. And to have good kids, you can't be their friend. But by that, I mean, you have to be their leader. And maybe when you get older, like my mom and I are probably like brother and sister now a little bit. Like, I mean, she's still my mom. I adore her. But we're starting to, the relationship can deepen as you get older. But in the beginning, don't get it confused. Same like if you have a dog, you're their leader.
Yeah, like, and my wife and I we're the pack leaders. Like my wife, and it's important that we have that. But here's the interesting thing, like, because our kids they're turning out to be good, well-adjusted, smart kids, it makes it really easy to be super nice to them. Like, it's not hard to, like, I don't ever have this inner struggle like, oh man, should I buy my son this dirt bike? I'm like, yeah, he's a straight A student. He works his ass off. He goes to study hall. He goes to extra help. Like, I have no problem doing that because, like, the kid's earned it. If he was a dick, and he was getting in trouble and I had to ride him all the time, then the situation might be different, but it's not. So I have no problem, just being nice to my kids because they're good kids.
Yeah, not a dirt bike, but similar with skateboard. My boy rides a skateboard every single day. He teaches his brothers. He's easy to get in the car. He's easy to get to the skate park. When I say it's time to leave, he leaves. And then if we're on the way home and he's like, hey, my skateboard, my wheels are done or my deck is done. Can we go get a new one? It's easy.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer.
It's so easy. Yeah.
Yep,
it's not. It's cool. Cruise by the store.
Yeah. So to get back to the point of, like, are you in a position in your life where you can ride your dirt bike on a Thursday? So, COVID was interesting. I had a location that.
Did you get it?
No, I have at least that I know of. I haven't.
You've been running from it and hiding from it, quadruple masking.
I only go out if I wear 5 masks.
Okay, good.
5 seems to be the magic number.
About you.
So, COVID it shut our business down, and rather than just roll it up and close it, I ended up moving out of that location and moving into a bigger location with one of my friends. So we actually merged our 2 CrossFit gyms because.
Is this George?
George, yeah. So George, I've known him for a long, long time. He's in the CrossFit space, and he owned CrossFit Tri-Town. And he had bigger space than we did. He was in a better area than we were. So we migrated our membership into his gym. And for the first time in my life, I had a business partner, because I've always been working solo. And what I realized is, like, George is so easygoing, and is so easy to get along with. that I finally had somebody that I could 100% trust and that was shouldering a chunk of the business with me. And all that did was give me access to the creativity to do things differently, right? Because I had somebody else that could carry the gym. I had somebody else that was worrying about paying the rent, and he pays all the bills, and I don't even know what the bank account is. Like, it's just that part of the business just happens, and I handed it over to somebody that I trust, and that gives me access to do other things. So that's where we started launching products, and you start looking at things differently. So we're in a position now where we've got a great staff at the gym. The classes are covered. The members are happy. The business is actually growing. In the last 2 or 3 weeks, we've had a dozen people that have come in to just try CrossFit out for the first time. Some are coming from other gyms, and some they've just had it with the gym that they're working out at, where they have to wear a mask still. So the business is evolving and growing, but that's given me tons of freedom to develop other parts of businesses that I'm into.
How long has this been going on? You and George? You and George thing?
Yeah, we opened up July of 2020.
Have you guys had any fights yet?
No.
I mean, I love George.
Yeah.
He's a good dude.
He's a good dude.
I don't know George,
No,
but I hate this. I hate the partnership. There's gonna be a fight. There's gonna be a falling out. There's gonna be
so. And
it's gonna start. He's gonna move the dumbbell rack over to a place you don't like it, and then you're gonna be like, hey, I saw you closed early the other day, and then he's gonna be like, well, I saw that you took some of the equipment home, and then next thing you know, you guys are fucking hate each other.
Okay, well, I here's the argument against that.
Okay,
is that George has a second business.
George regrets DMing me now and me having you on the show.
No, so George has a separate business where he does a lot of engraving for groomsmen gifts and stuff like that. And that business has exploded in the last 24 months. Like when I was
doing tombstones for COVID deaths.
Yeah. So during the last 2 years, that business has exploded, and he's had to put more and more focus on that part of the business. The thing that's the reason why I say I don't think there's going to be a split up or a fight is because neither one of us actually relies on the income from the gym for our personal lives. So the gym is just, it's almost like a project, and it's just, it functions on its own, and everything is growing, which is great. If it makes $1, awesome. If it makes more money, even better. But because we don't need it financially, it lowers the stress level to a point that's way below boiling point.
Okay.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah. Now I just see if the gym becomes super successful, it'll reach to a boiling point. Shit. I just got a text from Brian Friend saying, what the fuck? You didn't send me a link. Do you know who Brian Friend is?
I don't.
I don't know. I know who he is. I don't know what he is. I can't tell if he's the co-host of this show or not. I mean, he's kind of the co-host of this show. We clearly don't have a good of a working relationship. Look at me. I'm looking for holes in yours and George's relationships, and I just got a text from Brian saying, what the fuck?
Yeah, your partner's waiting for you.
Well, I didn't send him a link because I never know what shows he wants to come on and what she doesn't. I guess I should just default sending him links. I texted him this morning because we have Sarah Sigmund's daughter on tomorrow.
Yep.
And I texted him this morning saying, are you coming on the show? Let's see let's see. Oh shit.
He's pissed.
No, maybe he's pissed, but Sarah just texted me and said she's not coming on tomorrow.
Oh boy.
How's Tuesday the 30th at 7 a.m.? Ah, okay.
That was easy.
Okay. Okay. How do your members feel? Did they freak out?
So when we left our location and moved in with George, I think we probably had somewhere around 70 members, 75 members all in. And this is interesting. This gives you an idea of my outlook on things at the time. So when I sat down and I put together the actual roster of our membership, and I put down I gave everybody a yes or a no on whether I thought that they would come with us or not. They would make the move because it was a 15-mile difference from
Just
one
you
location.
guessing. Just you
Just me
guessing.
guessing, like
Okay.
spitballing, saying, all right, let me, of the 75, how many people do I think will make the transition? And I had 17 was my number out of the 75. And we ended up moving over 50.
Oh, wow.
So, but you know, the position that I was in, kind of the mindset that I was in was, you know, it's all over.
Well, that's good because then it's only up from there, right?
Yeah. I mean, I was just shocked. Now, once we moved, there was some attrition, you know, just because people realized this is a little bit too far. But we still hung on to quite a few of our members that are, you know, they're as loyal as they ever have been.
So I go to the place. Well, in the 4th grade, my school shut down, and I had to go to a different school. And it was weird going to a different school. All the kids migrated up to that school because it was their school.
Yeah.
And the same if the jiu-jitsu studio that my kids go to, you know, minimum 3 days a week, it's not just it's not like if Whole Foods closed down and I just go to a different one. It's not like that at all. It's I feel like I own it.
Yeah. Well,
You know what I mean? Like if I walked in there and there was trash on the ground, I would pick it up. Like my
it's
kids
much
go
more
there.
personal. The
Yeah.
connection is way more personal.
Yeah. And so then now all of a sudden there, it's kind of like those are your kids in a way, and you moved those are your kids and you got a divorce and you took your kids and moved in with a new wife, and now they're just like, or a new husband, and they're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, what are we doing here?
Yeah, we got to get a new bedroom. There's stairs in this house. But I guess you're saying that they transitioned good.
They did. And I think part of that is because at the time, everybody.
Did a bunch of your staff start boning a bunch of his staff?
No.
I mean, clients?
Is,
no. Anyone get married yet from your team to their team? Get anyone pregnant?
No, not yet.
Oh,
no,
right.
Not yet. But that might happen.
Good. You have to keep the narrative going unless that shit happens.
So I think when they closed us down in mid-March, they closed all gyms down. So we were full remote, and we just
2020.
Yeah. So they closed us down, and for months we were on Instagram, just doing Instagram live, where I would lead the warm up. I would basically teach a virtual class, and at the same time I was renting out all of our equipment. So I would drive around from place to place all day long, and this guy wants an assault bike, this guy wants some dumbbells, and so I was like an ice cream man, literally just delivering things all day long, trying to keep things afloat. So when we said, hey, we're going to move in with this other gym, I think people were so thrilled to just get back in a gym and not be working out in their living room, that we could have told them we were doing anything, and they would have said, whatever, let's just go. Let's just do whatever we have to do so that we can work out again. And I think the bar was set pretty low. We didn't have to do a whole lot. All we had to do was open the doors.
Do you still live in the same house that you lived in when I met you?
No, different house. Yeah, same town.
Why did you move?
We wanted a yard. Where we were, we just didn't have a yard.
So you upgraded.
We've got a yard, and we live in we live actually just a couple 100 yards from where I grew up.
And is it a nice house?
It's a nice house, yeah.
And a good yard, and your kids like it?
We have a great yard and it goes right down to a golf course, and it's a nice spot.
And your kids have their own bedroom?
They do.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, you're doing it. Rob, when I met you in 2009, you already had your own gym?
Yeah, and we opened.
It was kind of like underground. It was half underground and half above ground, right? There were like windows were on the ceiling.
Yep. Yeah, it was basically an underground space. And I sold that. I closed that in, I think we made it 10 years, so 2008. So I opened it in 2008 and I sold it or closed it in 2018.
And why did you open a gym, and what did you do before then for a living?
Yeah, so personal training. I've always been self-employed. And so I came out of college and I started personal training. I was commuting to the city from Stamford, Connecticut.
To New York City?
Yeah. So I was hopping on the first train out every morning, going down to the city and training people. And then got lucky enough that like right across the street from where I was living at the time in Stamford, they opened up a New York Sports Club, which is giant Globo gym. And I managed to be there when they opened, and I picked up a ton of personal training clients. And I did that exclusively for 5 years. And at the end of 5 years, I was like, well, I don't want to do this here anymore. I want a bigger piece of the pie, right? So if my customer is paying $100 and I'm collecting $20, I'm like, well, why should the gym get 80? So I went out on my own.
And did you just do the math on a napkin? You're like, okay, I have 30 clients, and if I get $50 from each of them, that's $1,500, and I can do that. You just did that on
yeah. Okay. It was not a complicated decision. And again, you put together your roster of clients, and you're like, okay, well, these are my clients. Who do I think will come with me? And then you have these conversations with people. But what you find in the personal training world is that these people were loyal to me. They weren't loyal to the gym. They could care less about the gym. They were loyal to me. So when I said, hey, I want to break out and let's go on our own, I'll bring gear with me, and we can train right at your house. The vast majority said, okay. So huge bump in pay. The only pain in the ass was that I had to drive from location to location, but that still didn't matter to me. So I did that for years and years. And then, somewhere in 2007, I was going from place to place and realizing that I want to be on my own schedule. I want my clients to come to me, because I would get to somebody's house to do a personal training session, and then their phone would ring, or their dog would be barking, or they'd have to take a delivery from the UPS guy, or their kid would be homesick. And you just had like the gamut of excuses. And I just got so tired of, sitting there in somebody's basement gym while they were doing all of their regular shit and we weren't working out. So I decided, this is a great conversation I had with one of the guys that I was training back then. We were supposed to do a private session, and we were supposed to meet that day. And he just said, look, I just don't feel like doing this. Let's go out to breakfast. So during breakfast that day, he says to me, you complain about every place that we've ever worked out, because I was working out with him at a gym that I was paying a rent. He's like, you complain about every gym that we go to. Like, what's stopping you from just opening your own place? And I said, I need $50,000. And he says, well, I'll give you half. And then he volunteered a good friend of his to give us the other half. And these guys just cut a check for $50,000 and told me to go find some space. And the space that I found was when I met you.
Oh, wow. That's going to happen to Brian. Brian's going to be like, that's Brian right there too. He's going to be like, Jesus Christ, this guy Sevan I do the podcast with. And someone's going to be like, dude, just start your own already.
That's already happened a lot of times. Many times.
Brian, I'm so sorry. I honestly don't know what the fuck is going on. That's all me. And on the show, Sarah said she's not coming on until next Tuesday. And Miranda texted me last night saying she had a doctor's appointment or something. She's pregnant, or she had some appointment. So we're rescheduling. So we have no one for tomorrow, Brian, yet.
You want to just do it, you and me?
I would love to. We can just work through all the poor communication you've been getting from mine. Brian, yeah. Rob, Brian.
How are you, Brian?
Hey, Rob. Good to see you.
Likewise.
And that's when you opened up your Opex gym, right, Rob?
That's right. Opex. That's right.
Mm-hmm. I had OPT on the other day. It was actually, I don't think he's OPT anymore. James Fitzgerald. And it was a great conversation. And towards the end of the conversation, we started talking about comparing CrossFit and Opex, and it just got sideways. I felt horrible because I didn't want it to be like that. And then I posted something on Instagram showing like James talking about the difference, and it took a bad turn.
Well, so the interesting thing is, before I came on this morning, I was actually I was going through some Instagram stuff, and I found where that starts to go off the rails, but then the interview cuts off there. So I didn't get a chance to hear the rest of it.
Yeah, he didn't say anything, but he didn't say anything bad. But if you're like a hardcore CrossFitista, yeah. It was all around individualized training. It's all relative, right? It's he basically says Opex is individualized training, and I was like, well, wait a second, CrossFit's individualized training, and he put his hands in his face and he's like, come on, dude, like, what are you talking about? You know better. And I'm like, what do you mean I know better? Like, it's individualized training. But I think what Opex does is, I mean, if you drive someone home and tuck them in bed after they work out, and CrossFit just says bye to them at the front door, then you're gonna think you have more individualized training than CrossFit. I get it. I think that's where the difference is. I think Opex, and Brian even said on the show, and maybe we'll let Brian chime in here. Brian went through the Opex program and he really liked it. And he's like, holy shit, that level 1 that they teach is off the hook, fucking amazing. But he couldn't make a living following their protocol.
I could have made a living following the protocol, but I feel like I would have been shortchanging the people I was providing that service to relative to what I would expect to give them based on what I learned through the program. But I think that, I don't know I can't remember if we talked about it or not, but I think one of the biggest things is just the expectation of the client. So if you're signing up to have an Opex coach, you're expecting the word individualized to mean something different than if you're signing up to go to a CrossFit class. If you're signing up to go to a CrossFit class or CrossFit gym, you're still expecting the coach there to know you and work with you to make sure that you have a successful hour every time you show up. But the degree of that is different than someone who's paying specifically for someone who is consulting with them about their nutrition and their sleep and their stress and their workouts.
Yeah, I think, I always say that the way we do the way we run CrossFit classes at Hybrid, it feels like a personal training session. And it should be that customized that, when somebody comes in this morning, I coached the 5:15 a.m. class. We're doing dumbbell snatches, alternating dumbbell snatches. And I've got a guy that, we had to customize the workout for him to work around some things that he's got going on. That to me is like, that's how this thing works, and that maybe that's the background that I come from, which is just you look at the person on the day and say, what do you have to give and what can I get out of you? And then you adjust the workout accordingly. I don't know that's it. I don't know that it needs to be more complicated than that. I don't know that it needs to be more involved than that. You can call it whatever the hell you want, but all I'm trying to do is give this person a good hour. And again, like I said to you earlier, Sevan, is that you are marginally better than you were yesterday. That's all we're looking for. Like, just keep coming back, because that's to me is the goal. It's longevity. It's not about some spike in performance between here and 3 weeks from now or here and 6 months from now. This is the long game. I always tell people that the product that I sell it's a really unappealing thing to sell. Okay, like if you sell Ferraris, that's cool. You sell something beautiful and they function and they're amazing, right? When somebody comes in that doesn't know anything about CrossFit, they don't know anything about what we do, I tell them the same thing every time. I'm like, this is going to take you 10 times longer than you want it to take. It's going to cost 10 times more than you think it should cost. And it's going to be really, really uncomfortable all the way through.
And you tell the women that this is going to make you bulky and look like a man, right?
I always, yeah. And then they look around the gym and they're like, well, how come it's not working for anybody here?
They don't work hard enough. Don't work hard enough. Don't look at them.
So, but when I'm upfront and I'm honest with people right from the beginning, it thins out, the people that just don't want to be there.
And like that, those, and here's what I always get frustrated with is that's also true of Opex. Like there's a lot of similarities in the programs, and I don't know why everyone chooses to get so caught up in the differences. Both of them are doing positive things for people. Both of them are providing opportunities for exactly what Rob just talked about. It's difficult. It costs money, but it'll make you a healthier person, and hopefully you'll live a more enjoyable life because of it.
Why do people get wrapped around the axle? Because that's the state that we live in these days. That's why. Because everybody's looking for a reason to get wrapped around the axle 24/7.
He wants it to be different too. In the two camps, I mean, probably James wants it to be different, and in CrossFit. I mean, this is way hyperbole, but he wants it to be different, and CrossFit wants to think that everyone's stealing from them. I mean, that's a gross exaggeration, but somewhere there in there, there's a truth that is where the tension lies. I will say this: James made it very, very clear that Opex puts a premium on relationships, like.
And that was actually the only thing that he said that really bothered me, is because as
that part.
As a person, as a person who coaches in a CrossFit gym, so do I. And I think Rob would say the same. Like you know, someone from his gym, a random person commented earlier on the video, and he could tell you about her. He knows her.
Yeah, yeah.
And Ben Bergeron's talked about this. He goes, you have to be careful how many people you have in your gym, because there's only so many people you can actually have a meaningful relationship with, and know their name and know their family and understand the things that are going on in their lives. And it's definitely important, because if they're coming there every day and you're putting something on the board and saying, this is what we're going to do, they have to have a reason to trust you and to say, yes, this is a good, this is a good person that has good intentions for me. And so I'm going to do what he asked me to do.
Well, if you're having, we talked about this at the beginning of the show, if you're having issues at your gym or with the owner of your gym, I encourage you to go to Barbell Jobs and get a new job. Okay. So, Rob, how's your tattoo game going? Have you added tattoos to your,
No, it's been quite a while. Same ones that I've had. It's been a long time since I've sat in the chair and gotten any more. It's same.
Do you regret getting any of those tattoos?
No, there's no regret. Do
you want to erase any of them?
No, it's kind of like it was a thing that I did, and it's like I've got my kids' flowers and my wife's favorite flower, and it was just a time in my life, and I had I don't regret any of it. No.
Do you have any crypto?
Negative. No.
None.
For
some reason, I see you as wanting to dabble in that a little bit.
A good friend of mine. So another one of my hobbies that I've turned into a business is driving cars on track and organizing high performance track days. A good friend of mine that does this with me he's been trying to push me into crypto. Not push me, but he's just encouraging me to take a look at it seriously.
I don't know. I just started a couple weeks ago. I have no fucking idea what I'm looking at, but there's an app, and I just know that when the shit I bought is dropping, like to hopefully then buy some more.
Right. Yeah.
But it seems to be working, but I don't know. And basically this is what I think it is for anyone out there. And I'm totally open to being wrong. Basically it's made up money, and they're just hoping that someone picks up their coin to be one that's not made up anymore. So we all know that the dollar's made up, right? We've all agreed that this green stuff, we'll use it. We'll agree to the delusion that it has value equal to human energy, and we'll trade it for services, right? So like, I'll give you $50, you'll rub my back. You give me $50, I'll cut your lawn for the week, right? Mm-hmm. And for some reason we've agreed that this green shit, this shit exists. It's new money that's out there, but no one's accepting it yet. Right. Yeah, so they're all vying to be the next currency, but the whole thing might be bullshit too. But I think all money is made up. Yeah. Correct, Tyler. That's what kind of like the pandemic. That is what, but it's okay that it's made up as long as we're all on the same field. I mean, shit has to be made up. Red has to mean stop. I've said this 1,000 times so that we don't crash into each other. It doesn't really mean stop, but we agree on making that shit up. Mm-hmm. So I think that's what crypto is. And so they're just, and now there's this thing forming called the metaverse, I guess they're saying. It's basically virtual reality online. And one of those coins will probably get chosen, or some variety of those coins, to be used inside of that metaverse. And so if that happens and you have some of those coins, I think that's what's going on. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I think that that describes it as well as I've ever heard it described before. I mean, my buddy.
Thank you. I just did that for you. One more thing too. And this is what's amazing about Amazon. Amazon is, because they sell every product, they're almost ubiquitous with money, with the dollar. And that's what makes Amazon gift cards so valuable to cartels and illegal money laundering and shit operations. I mean, that's how you buy illegal drugs online. You buy them with Amazon gift cards, because to those people, it's ubiquitous to money because they sell everything, right? Yeah. If you can get everything at this store, then it's the same as money. What their token.
It's fucked up.
This fucking Bezos is fucking killing it. Do you remember reading about Bezos like 10 or 15 years ago? He wants his bookstore to sell everything. You're like, what?
Okay.
Oh my God. He's going to open a store on the moon.
And it'll be sold out.
Would you go to space? Like to live? Like, would you leave Earth?
No, it's pretty good here.
It
I mean,
is.
as backward as the time as we're living in right now, where up is down and left is right, and we can't seem to agree on a goddamn thing. It's pretty good here.
Yeah, you're living a good life. I like what happened. I like the path you chose. Are you glad you opened that first gym? Are you glad that when that client said to you, did you have to pay that guy back the 50 grand?
No, I mean, I tried to for years. I tried to come up with a payment plan to pay him back, but another line that he had that it's one of these things that I've said so many times to different people who've asked over the years. But when I tried to come up with a payment plan and I put it down in front of him, he just said to me, listen, no matter what you pay me back, it's not going to be enough to move the needle for me. So don't worry about it.
Mm.
He was a guy that had extraordinary means. And if I had paid him back 5X, that's weekend money for him and his wife, so it wouldn't have been a thing. It would have just been a gesture.
Are you still friends with him?
No, not that we're not friends. He went on his path. He started philanthropy, opened up a school. So we just separated ways, but I don't remember the last time I talked to him. It's been a while.
Maybe you'll text him after this and just say, hey, thinking about you.
I might.
Better to do it now than when you need him for another 50K. So then
honestly, just a decent human being. And, at a time when I needed a push, and he was there to help out.
If you're not a nice person now as a poor person, you won't be a nice person when you're a rich person. So those of you people who are like, oh my God, he just did that because he's rich, or he did that just because he could do that, you're confused. You're like, when you're a nice person and you're poor and you have a sandwich and the guy next to you and you're at work with someone and you cut it in half and give it to him, even though you want to eat the whole sandwich, that's just because that's just who you are. And you'll do it when you're poor and you'll do it when you're rich, and you'll just always do it. And if not, you won't do it. You'll just be an asshole your whole life.
Yeah, this guy was just a nice human being, and like I said, one of the most philanthropic guys I know, opened up a school that bled him dry for years and years and years, and he just kept dumping into it until it was something that he was proud of, and just a good person.
Rob, you going to Miami this year?
No, I was hoping to run Waza Strong. This would be our third year, but they decided that they're not going to run it this year. So maybe next year, if they bring it back, I'd love to go back and run it again.
Wait, what is that? What's Waza Strong, and why would Rob go to Miami?
That is sad news for me. I love that event.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that was the consensus. So Waza Strong. A couple of years ago, and now it's a bunch of years ago, I had conversations with Guido Trinidad about potentially doing some kind of a hybrid athletics competition at Wadapalooza. And then when did we do our first one? Was it 2019? I think was our first Waza Strong. And they gave us a stage where we ran a 4-event competition on Thursday leading up until the main competition. We had men and women compete in novice and advanced groups. And it was basically my style of workout. So if I was going to program, for myself, or really, really challenging events that had a strongman flair or a really heavy flair, that's what we threw as a competition. And so we did it in 19, and then we threw it again in 2020. And this year they said that they were going to pass on it.
And we're worked with Rob at those, and I wrote a couple articles about him and featured a couple of the athletes who even used to be like regional level CrossFit athletes that were competing in it. But I thought it was amazing, and it was kind of, he had stones and really heavy yokes, but the guys also had to be able to do high volume of double unders and ring muscle ups.
Yep.
And some of them could do, the strongman stuff, but struggled on the body weight stuff, and others the other way around. But there were a couple guys that were like really good at both.
Yep.
I actually saw Mike Sabato at I think at Granite Games this year. I had a great conversation with him. This guy, Sevan, he comes from like New Jersey or something like that. He wears Sambas, like those old soccer shoes.
What's his name?
Mike Sabato, Sabato.
And he was just like this most unassuming guy. But once he got in the stage of competition, it was incredible how strong he was.
Yeah.
And there was a handful of guys like that, and women. I really liked it. I'm bummed to hear that they're not doing it this year.
Is Guido out? He's not Wadapalooza anymore, right?
He still is involved, kind of like tangentially, but they consult him for things. He's going to be a little bit more involved this year, I think, since it's their 10th anniversary, and they want to highlight some of the evolutions of the sport the competition from its origins to now over a decade. But it's mostly Matt O'Keefe, Dylan Malitsky, and Kristen Chandler who are running it now.
Yeah. Were you invited to the Rogue Invitational, Rob?
No.
As a legend?
No.
Does that chafe you?
No, it's a great question. Because
it's not mine. It's Matt Smith's. It's someone on, because we're live, so someone just said it.
Yeah, no,
I'm more into kissing your ass and loving on you. But if someone wants to peel off some Band-Aids, fuck it.
No, it's funny actually. So, as they were announcing it, the roster of competitors that were going to go, my wife said to me, like, I wonder where yours is.
Damn. So she ain't fucking around with you.
No,
you got like a spoonful of cereal in your mouth and she throws that at you in the morning.
Yeah, she has no mercy, which is why the relationship works. But we just kind of both laughed at it. It's like I just the fact that I was mentioned and that a handful of people tagged me on some of those posts,
right?
That feels good. And truthfully, like I'd love to go and hang out with those guys and throw down again. Like me and Miko, every time we traveled, we kind of partnered up and worked out, and it'd be good to see him. It'd be good to work out with him at any venue, at any competition, or otherwise. So it'd be a nice thing to do to get together with people.
You know what they should have done for fuck it? It would have been funny. They should have figured out some way to make fun of you. They should have invited you out there. And although we didn't let him come on the floor, we want to introduce you, Rob Orlando. And then you kind of like come out in a golf cart waving, and like you get out of the golf cart with like a cane or some shit.
I'll tell you, I'm
serious. They should have brought you there and fucked with you.
First of all, I think they should have invited you, Rob. And I'll tell you a quick story, Sevan. But also, I thought that the way that they did it this year was like probably more enjoyable for those athletes. They're not really looking to do like 5 individual events head to head and whatever. So the format they had this year, I thought was probably better for them. And then, the fans still obviously loved seeing all those people. But Rob, I'm sure you have no memory of this, but I started watching and learning about the games in 2014, 15 and watched all the old stuff. And to me, you were kind of like the antithesis to Chris Spieler. Right. Mm-hmm. And both of you guys had a legendary status from those early days in your own regards. And then in 2016, I went to the games out in Carson. It was my first time going. I brought my dad there and a friend of mine, and we watched all the Masters competition because it was early in the week and we could watch it it didn't interfere with the elite individual events. Mm-hmm. And you were competing that year in the Masters division. I can't remember which age in 2016.
I was in the 35s.
And it was great. Yeah. I think it was 40 to 44.
40. That's right.
I don't think they had the 35 yet.
That's right.
I was probably way too big time in 2016 to talk to you, Rob. I don't even remember you being there.
You gave me the brush by.
I swear, it's true. I'm sure I did.
But you had short hair then.
Yeah.
And you were pretty fit like you've always been. And there was like this one moment. It was kind of like a weird moment for me, but I was walking over to the bathroom and it was like kind of empty. There weren't a lot of people there, whatever. And you were walking out, and I took the chance to say hi to you and acknowledge that to me you had been kind of one of the inspirations from the early days of the space. And that was the first time that I met you, actually.
Did he wipe his hand on you?
Yeah, I dried my hand on his back.
Yeah. And my dad came back to me and said, "Why is your back so wet?" I said, "Oh, shit."
No, the 2016 games, I've said this before, that the 2016 games was by far and away the most fun as from any competition that I had ever done, because it was so relaxed. The atmosphere, the volume of events, that I just felt no pressure. It was just like, let's just go out and here have fun. And there was only one heat for every event because there's just 20 guys lined up. So it just the whole thing just seemed to work, and then I had a blast doing it.
Was that the year there were the hang cleans with 155 on that super thick bar and dudes were blowing out biceps?
That is the final event. Yeah. So it was axle cleans, and it was a bunch of pull-ups, and a ton, I want to say like half a dozen popped their bicep on those axle cleans because they were trying to do continental cleans. So they would do a mixed grip to clean it up. And on that mixed grip, they'd pop the underhand bicep.
Are all those dudes juicers? Is that like you pop your bicep juicer?
That's a great question. I don't know. I think it's poor technique, and it's something that they never do, and they're trying to do it under stress.
How about just shitty programming? How about shitty programming, bad technique, and juiced up motherfuckers? How about all three?
Well, so I would have loved that workout, right? But I just
right.
Missed the cut,
well, you
right?
because you have seasoned hands around weird brown.
Yeah, it would
because that bar is thinner than your penis, and so you're just
slightly.
Yeah. You have years of handling thick.
Daily, multiple times a day, actually.
Yes.
Yeah.
Rob, do you remember the very first time you picked up something heavy? Like, do you remember being a little kid and like having to move a 20-pound bag or 40-pound bag of cement and being like 6 and being like, what the fuck? I don't like this.
Not quite that far back, but I do think back to
your dad hands you a shovel and it weighs 6 pounds and you're 4 and you're like, oh God, really? No, you don't remember that?
No. What I do remember, like back into the early days of high school, and hand mixing concrete in a wheelbarrow and having to lug 94-pound bags of Portland concrete on your shoulder and lug them around construction sites. And you kind of get used to moving 100 pounds at a time. Like, it's a thing that you do.
I haven't worked with concrete a lot, but my dad always had concrete around, so I worked with it a little bit, and I did the 40 and 60-pound bags, unloading them out of trucks, and it is a weird thing, especially if you're not used to hard work and you're kind of a little bitch like I was, and it hurts. Like holding the bag hurt, my fingers hurt. I didn't like it touching my skin. I didn't enjoy sweating. I was just I was a bitch. I hated but eventually once you accept it, it's the same with like moving like 4x8 pieces of plywood, right? Or sheetrock. Like at some point it's like a fight. It's like fighting with the object. You just have to just take fucking control of it. Okay. It's like every bag I'm just attacking.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be pretty and you don't get style points. You just have to do the work.
But also you have to be present. It's not easy. It's not like taking a cup out of the fridge and filling up a glass of water while you make a phone call. I mean, you're in a fight. This thing that nothing's fun about a cement bag. A little bit's leaking on you. There's a rough edge. There's a guy behind you who's getting ready to hand you a next one. You're trying to stack them evenly. It's just fucking like, geez, what?
Yeah,
it's business.
So there was
you're fighting with the bags. You can't drop it.
No, you can't drop it because it'll pop open.
Yeah,
you get yelled at for
wasting shit.
Yeah. I was mixing concrete for a stonemason. Lenny Lee was the guy's name. Really old, salty, just a grouch. And he wore this fishing hat with a million different lures on it. And he was probably in his early 80s.
Can you believe that's a look? Is that a mating strategy? Damn, I'm gonna get myself a lot of bitches. I'm gonna put this hat on. It's gonna rain pussy on me with these lures. I mean, isn't it like what the fuck? How is that? Okay, sorry. Go on. Lenny Lee.
Lenny Lee, yeah. So Lenny Lee was, he had vice grips for hands. He had the skin of a leather bag because he was the first guy up the scaffolding all day, every day. So he was the one up there in the sun all day. And so he would climb up the ladder, up the scaffolding, and he was at 7 o'clock, 7 sharp. He would fire a brick down at me and say, "Where's my mortar?" And he'd scream and yell at me, "Where's my mortar?" So I'd be mixing concrete, and I had to do it in a wheelbarrow with a hoe, because he said that mixers, they made laborers lazy. So I wasn't allowed to use a mixer on any job site.
A mixer's like a drill bit with like a drill
No,
with
no,
like
a mixer's like the giant tub that's spinning around, and you just pour the shit into it, and it mixes the concrete. You spray the water in it.
It's automated.
Yeah, I had to do it where it's by hand, like with pushing and pulling it back and forth, getting it all mixed up, and then pull it up to him in a 5-gallon bucket on a pulley, and then lower it back down. And this would go on all fucking day, all summer, from Monday through Saturday.
With cement dripping on you, and just there's nowhere safe.
No, but those were some of the most enjoyable work days that I ever had, because it's just grunt work. And at the end of one particular stint, it was like 3 days in a row, we were doing this work at a college, and it was hot as balls. It's some of those August days where it's 100 degrees, 100% humidity. And I want to say I was 17 then, maybe 18. At the end of the day, Lenny, he's quiet, sits in the truck, piece of shit Chevy that, I mean, you could look at the ground because there was no floorboards in it. So
just rusted out,
just completely rusted out. It was running on 1 horsepower. It was a piece of shit, right? So we pull into this convenience store on the way home, and he doesn't talk to me at all. He just pulls in, and he comes back out, and he's got a Budweiser tall boy, and he sits in the truck, and he hands me one.
And you're 17?
17. And the two of us sat there drinking a Budweiser tall boy. And he said to me, something to the effect that you earned that one today. And it's just one of those.
It's the only thing you drank all day. You're hydrating with the Budweiser.
So good. But it's just one of those. I went home and told my mom, and she was like, "Good. You busted your ass all day." She had no problem with that whatsoever. It's like, and I think I hope that my kids will have that same type of experience where they get to work that hard physically, just get to work that hard, where you put your head on the pillow at night and you are exhausted. And to me, I think there's value in that.
Man, I had this guy, Nick Rodriguez, on either yesterday or the day before. I can't remember now. And he's a 25-year-old Brazilian jiu-jitsu guy who stormed on the scene. And he was just telling me, he's like, I just want to work, basically. I just want to fucking grind.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird as you get older. Like I get that. I still want to, like, I sometimes go in the garage. I'm like, oh, I'm just going to fucking get at it. And after 40 minutes, I'm like, all right, that's good. You know what I mean? I'm like, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good. Like, I think I'm gonna do a 30-minute warm up and then just get out of crazy work. I'm good.
Yeah. It's one of those things that as my kids are getting older, I think it's important for them to see me suffer.
Right.
So a workout that I did last year on Father's Day, and I'm going to do it again this year too. I did it with my son, was 20 down to 1 of burpees with a 500-meter ski erg in between every set.
Oh, that's good. Wow.
So, and that's a Father's Day special. And it's, I do it with my son, and I want him to see me grinding for an hour straight. There's nowhere to go. It's not complicated. Everyone can do it. And sometimes it's important just to put it in gear and keep going.
If my kids see me work out every day in the garage, and if they come in, and I don't ever really know what they think of it until recently. And if I'm working out, let's say if I do a typical workout I do on the regulars, I do 10 deadlifts with 135, 10 burpees, and I do 10 rounds. Yep. And it's pretty horrible, and it never gets better. I'm never making like progress on it. and so
I find that hard to believe.
And so if they come in there and they say something to me while I'm working out, like, hey, can I have a sandwich, or can you open the garage door? I'll fucking snap at them. Can't you see I'm working out? like don't fuck around. Or I just ignore them. Like they're fucking not even there. Or if like they walk by me while I'm doing a burpee, I just kick them down to the ground. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, this is like my time, right? Yeah. Like, you can get it. You can come in here and work out with me. You can, but don't fuck around. Like, I would never fuck with you when you were working out. Yeah. And so the other day, someone goes, I think we were at jiu-jitsu or at tennis, and one of the other parents goes, so do you play tennis or do you do jiu-jitsu? I can't remember. And I go, nah, I just drive my kids around in a van all day. And my son, who's 7, Avi, goes, oh, but he works out every day so hard. I was like, yeah.
That's awesome.
It was like, that'll probably get me till I'm 90. Like, you know what I mean? That's enough. Just that little acknowledgement from my boy. I'm like, yeah, he sees it.
He sees it. And that's
he
important.
knows.
That's important.
Yes.
It's important.
He knows. And any other time I'll stop anything I'm doing to help my kids. But when I'm working out, like,
no.
Same with my podcast. If they knocked at the door, I'd be like, get the fuck out of here. Or, you know what I mean? Or sit down and be quiet. But there's like some things like there's just bound. It's kind of like what we were talking about in the beginning of the podcast. There's just the rules. Just be good. I'll be good to you. You be good to me. We just be good and we can hang.
Yeah. It's not complicated.
Rob, does your wound ever heal?
Good question.
Rob has when I met Rob, he has a giant tree tattooed on his back. It is probably the best tattoo I've ever seen in my life. And it's a dead tree with a couple healthy leaves on it. And I asked Rob, hey, what does this tattoo stand for?
Yeah. You know,
and I didn't have kids at the time, just so you know. So like, I had fucking no idea what the fuck I was asking. I was a fucking complete idiot. And now I go through the mental gymnastics of what Rob actually went through every single day. It's something that no one tells you about when you have kids that you're going to have to do.
Yeah. It's, you know, it's one of those things that I don't know that a deep wound ever heals, right? I think you
Will you explain what the tattoo is first? Sorry for the listeners.
Yeah. So there's a tattoo on my back of a tree, and it's, you know, there's initials carved into the tree, and it's you know, it's the family members. It's my family members that are carved into this thing, and they're without giving away too much, because it's not something that I talk about publicly, but it's one of those things that there was a significant loss. And, you know, one of those things where you're like, what if you woke up tomorrow and your right leg was missing? You know, like, could you wake up? Yeah. Is everything that you do for the rest of your life going to be different? Yes. But can you find a way to enjoy and have a great, fulfilling life without that leg? And the answer is yes. And it takes effort, especially in the beginning. It takes a Herculean effort every single day, every single minute, to be making the choice, because that's what it is. It's a choice to continue to push forward and to try to enjoy and to re-engage. And, you know, but eventually you make the accommodations that you need to live without that leg. And it's not this hardened, you know, sad thing anymore. It's more of a, you know, it's like a warm breeze that you feel on your face one day, and just kind of, it washes over you and you feel good about it. And, you know, kind of, it's not this cold piece of coal anymore. And it's gotten to a point where it's just a part of my everyday.
You say that you don't talk about it publicly. Why is that?
You know, it's a tough thing, right? Because when you very few people know about what you're talking about. Most don't. Most, I hope, never do. And what I found in the very beginning when we experienced this loss was this, people would inevitably not know what to say. And, you know, then it gets this really strange, uncomfortable, relationship changing moment. Right. And so the people who are closest, they know, and it's not the kind of thing that I'm going to run around with a bullhorn and tell people, you know,
right.
Because it has the tendency to turn a lot of things strange.
To use the guy with the missing leg, wakes up with no leg. So I'll go places with my kids and there'll be someone without like a hand, right? Like we'll be sitting at the beach and there'll be a guy sitting next to us without a hand, and my kids will be like, "Hey, what happened to that guy's hand?" And I'll be like, "I don't know. Go over there and ask him."
Mm-hmm.
Because kids can do that, and that's the fucking problem with adults. The thing is that what some people go through, you just can't sympathize or empathize with, and faking it's worse.
Well, yeah, so here's the other part of it,
right?
Sevan, is
so
that,
just go. So don't just be yourself. Don't, like, if you're uncomfortable with around someone because they went through something that you can't even imagine, just you fucking embrace that uncomfortability. Don't project it back onto them.
Yeah, no, it and I'm telling you, it shit gets weird.
Yeah, I bet.
But here's the.
It's like when my good friends told me they were Scientologists. I have these really, really good friends, and after like a year, they told me they were Scientologists, and I could tell that they expected me to freak out.
Yeah.
But like, I don't care.
Yeah.
It did get weird when they told me all my friends were Scientologists, and I didn't know it. But that's the story.
You know, I think the difference is in the story about a person who loses their limb, right? Is that there is a visible loss. There's a visible scar that it's apparent to everybody, right? There's when there's a personal loss, it's not nobody's aware of it. They don't, unless you bring it up, unless you talk about it. So it's not an obvious sign, and nobody knows my perspective on things. They don't know where I'm coming from because they just don't know, and they can't know, right?
They can't know.
Much more,
we can't know.
It's much easier to project what it might be like if I didn't have my right hand or my right leg than it is to understand how a person who's lost their spouse or lost a child or lost a parent, early, you can't empathize with that. You don't know enough about that relationship and everything that went into it or is missing because of it. You can try to, but it's way more difficult to really, really comprehend.
It's just not a physical thing that you can see. So it's much more, it flies lower under the radar.
Don't tell me about black people unless you've lived in Africa for 5 years. You don't know shit. I don't care if you're fucking black. You don't know shit. Tell me after you lived in Africa for black years if you're going to categorize people by their skin color, you racist piece of shit. Don't tell me about white people unless you lived in fucking Finland for 5 years. Nico Salo is not the same white person I am. It's the same thing. These people think they just know shit. So fucking lame the way people categorize shit. Thank you for sharing that. It's a testament to you and your wife that you guys are still together. And it's probably, I'm guessing, the crowning achievement of your life is to be with the same woman for 23 years. How do you feel about your relationship with your wife?
It's a 10 out of 10. It's like, in the pantheon of decisions that you make over the course of your lifetime, right? There are two that I think are arguably the most important. And one is picking your spouse, and the other one is deciding whether or not you want to have children. Like, those are the two. Like, I think, and I've hit home runs on both. So I'm batting 1,000, and it's like my wife is, she's my best friend. And we were lucky enough to grow up together and to be together for the better part of 30 plus years right now. So I'm as lucky as they get in that regard.
When a couple of years ago, when I got fired from CrossFit, my brain immediately went to this fucked up spot, and I'm like, it's like a couple weeks, like I had this like out of body experience right away. And then after a couple of weeks, as the dust was settling and like I was able to like, okay, this is just the way it is. I remember my wife was like sitting on the couch reading a book or something. And I turned to her, I go, hey, no matter what happens, like I want to give, like, I want to have houses in California to give our kids, like when we die, like houses, plural. And like, so no matter what, I don't want to fucking sell any of our property. And so if shit gets really weird, can we just move into a van with the kids? And my wife's like, oh, for sure. And I was like, oh, I picked a fucking, you know what I mean? Like,
that's what I'm saying.
Like, I just needed that. I just needed like my brain was going to like the worst possible place. And then I was like, okay, yeah,
Yeah, we're good.
we just get a big van and live on the beach, and we get to keep all our houses, and just like my wife don't give a shit. Like, yeah, she met me when I was fucking homeless.
Yeah, and it'll be fine. You
It'll
guys
totally
will be fine.
fine.
Yep.
And my partner's got my back.
Yep.
I wonder if she has any stories like that about me. I think she's probably, yeah, I think I got the better deal maybe a little bit. When in hindsight, Rob, if you were to do it all over again, would you still open a gym, that first gym?
Yeah, I think that was the logical progression for me, was to open my own space and to kind of to do the things that I wanted to do. Again, I've been self-employed for forever. I've never really worked for a company so it was the next logical step.
Other than Lenny, of course.
Other than who?
Right.
Lenny.
Oh, yeah,
Lee.
yeah.
Hey, I love the last name Lee, because as you told the story, he started off as a black guy in my head, and then he started off as a white guy, and then by the end he was an Asian guy. I just but I don't know, but I just
You're
love
spelling
the
Lee L-I by the end.
Yeah. Yes. It was just changing.
Yep.
I love the last name Lee. That's cool that you never worked for anyone. Did your parents or anyone ever, like, did you have any of that pressure on you? Like, get a fucking job at Starbucks so you can get health insurance. What are you doing, Rob? Like, were the in-laws ever writing you? Like,
my mother has said to me, as recently as like a month ago, that I should be a teacher, and that I should be going back to school to get my teaching degree.
God, I love moms.
Yeah, I'm not. That's not going to happen. It's not on the cards.
Tell her you are teaching. It's just not the way that she envisioned it.
I say I'm a gym teacher. I just teach adults. That's all. And
my mom asked me. My mom asked me yesterday if I was going to get a job. I'm fucking not shitting you.
It's like, so my parents.
Have you thought about getting a job? Maybe you should get a job.
Maybe I should get a job.
Like, what kind of fucking job, Mom?
What about that thing that I do every day that pays the bills?
That too. Yes.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah. No, I think
I get it though. They're a different generation. There's some people that still think Harvard's a good school.
Yeah. Well,
it's fucking. It's not, people. There's some people who still read the New York Times. Like you might as well be a Scientologist.
The crossword puzzle's still good.
Maybe. Ay. Okay, sorry, Rob. So you're gonna get a job?
No,
you're gonna go back and get your teaching credential?
I'm pretty satisfied with where I'm at right now. I'm not looking to step back into school for another year or two so that I can teach at the elementary school level. No, I know that would make my mom happy, but that's not really what I'm aiming for.
I'm going to say something so sexist. Men should not be elementary school teachers. I just can't relate to it. I don't think men shouldn't be around kids. Rob was part of the inspiration for new scoring, so thanks for that. I wish we got to see more guys like him. Do you know what Tyler's referring to? Either of you?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Oh, tell me. Do you know, Rob?
No, I'm curious.
Yeah. No, he's just saying when he's gone back and applied the scoring system. This is a guy he was recently on. Wrote an article that's published on Morning Chalk Up and was on the Training Think Tank podcast. And he and I were on the Get With the Programming podcast talking about this. And he's very passionate.
Are you guys polished? Can you come on my podcast now? Because I'm bringing it back on. He's way the last one.
No, he's much better now.
The only podcast we haven't aired, Rob, is when I had this guy, Jason Watkins, on the podcast. I do like him though, but I'm just busting his balls. But go on. Sorry. So now you guys have done 3 podcasts. You're all polished, and you go big time on the Sevan podcast. That's good.
I wasn't with him for the Training Think Tank one. He lives near there, so he just went over to their studio. But anyway, he's very passionate about the fact that there's a better way to score CrossFit competitions if you want to claim that you're testing for fitness. And before coming to the table with that publicly, or even searching for a means to, he wanted to have, valid data that he could point back to and say, here's an example of something that happened in the past. This is the way it was scored. This is the way I would have scored it. And here's how the results would have changed. And in the case of Rob, it's a good, what I'm assuming here is that there was a competition or multiple competitions you participated in that your relative ranking to the field would have been significantly higher or lower, probably higher in his scoring system. And that's because in that scoring system, let's just say that the scoring was it was a 1 rep max deadlift, and you deadlifted 600 pounds, and the next guy deadlifted 520 pounds. In the CrossFit Games scoring system, he would have gotten 5 points or 6 points less than you. But in his scoring system, he would have taken all of the results from the entire field of deadlifters and then ranked them based on what he calls a Z scoring system. So you still would have earned 100 points, but the second place guy might have only earned 78 points, and then everything would have been scaled from there.
Yeah.
So Rob inspired Tyler to come up with that?
He was one of the athletes, when you look back historically, that probably had significant changes in their overall or relative placement come to the end of competitions based on the changes in the scoring system. There are certainly others.
Better or worse?
He'd probably weigh in here, but I would guess better.
Totally off subject. Clayton Wall, more men should be teachers. The profession is way too feminized. Sure, I'm fine with that. 40-year-old man should not be in a biology classroom with 16, 17-year-old girls the way they're dressed these days. It's just, the whole thing is fucked up. We're causing pressure cooker. We're causing a bad situation. Like, men are fucking men. Something needs to be addressed. All these weird things are. You should study a book. We need to look at books. Sorry. Have you ever looked at books on animal behavior with the caged animals in a zoo? The shit they do.
Mm-mm.
Caged animals in a zoo do all the weird shit that humans do. And in the wild, they don't do that weird shit. You cage 30 male monkeys together and they start doing some weird shit. Throw one female monkey in there, shit gets weirder. I mean, yeah. I can't just agree and just say start having more male teachers. I don't know. My friend, I'm not going to ruin this show. Sorry. Does Rob think the CrossFit Games is an accurate test of complete fitness? Yes. Let's go to some superficial shit. I like this. This is fun. Let's eat some cotton candy.
This is great. Do I think it's I think Dave does an amazing job at testing for the fittest. I think that if you look at the scope of the events, if you look at the number of tests compared to when I competed in 2009, I remember you and I talked about this, Sevan, that at the 2009 games, there were 10 events. There were 5 on Saturday and 5 on Sunday. And I want to say that if I remember it right, you said to me, was Dave trying to kill somebody?
Probably.
It's one of my favorite lines from your, I don't know if it was a documentary or documentary series that year, Sevan, but you were talking to Kalipa, and I think it was right after the final event, which was at Long Chipper. And he goes, the difference between last year's games and this year's games is no joke. Like, that was a significant change in terms of programming.
Yeah.
From 8 to 9, was it? Yeah.
Yeah. And then
9 was nuts. 9 was nuts.
9 was, it was hard. But you fast forward to how many days they compete now, how much is thrown at them over the course of like a 4 or 5 day competition. Now it's just evolved, and the volume has gone up and the weights have gone up, and just everything has, it was in its infancy in 2007, 8, and 9. And now it's just starting to mature. And so I think the test just keeps getting better and better, bigger and bigger.
And the swimming. Oh, and speaking of the swimming, that's what KO'd you, right?
Yeah.
Post Jason T. Watkins' most recent comments, Sevan. Or it starts with better, yeah.
Oh, sorry. Better. So Rob would have done better. He was never awarded correctly for his strength. Likewise, swim would have killed him worse.
Well, the swim would have killed me.
No, the swim did kill you.
Yeah.
The swim ended your career as an individual. Yours and Nico's.
I went,
right?
Yeah. I went back in 16, but that was as a master's. Does that count?
No.
Okay. So as an individual, that was it. That was it for me. The fucked up thing is that in 11, I was significantly fitter than I was in 10, and I was in a better space mentally. But that first, the ocean swim is, it just wasn't meant to be.
Just now when you started talking about Dave, by the way, I sent him a link to the show. I said, Rob's talking about you to try to entice him to come on. He said, I'm in a bad area. He's a good dude.
Dave's always been super supportive of me, and we've always gotten along really well. He's but yeah, that ocean swim that fucked me up.
Tell us what happened, Rob. So to give us the juicy details of that. You see it programmed, and you're in your bedroom in the fetal position crying, and your wife.
Let's set it up a little. So just in case anyone doesn't know, so Rob in 2009 placed 22nd, and he came back in 2010.
And not only placed 22nd, but kind of stole the show. I mean, there were a lot of superstars at that podcast, that game.
I was going to say that about 2010, actually.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Because in 2010 he placed 15th, but when you start looking at the people that were ahead of that, it's people that you know are very recognizable. It was a really good competition, and just behind him that year were Jason Khalipa, Spencer Henville, James Hobart. So he was right there, like in the mix.
And he was kind of the first iteration of like the Dan Bailey and the Josh Bridges, someone who wasn't winning it, but like everyone knew who he was. Like it probably pissed the 10 guys who were ahead of him because Rob had more fame than them. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
So then we come to 2011, and the first event is in the ocean.
Yeah, so the first event was an ocean swim, and it's
Los Angeles, California, people, North American continent on the west side, Rob Orlando.
So everybody's asking me. No, everybody has asked me since then, and these questions stopped like 10 years ago after the competition ended. But it's like, were you nervous? I'm like, no, because I can swim. I've never done an ocean swim before, and it was just me being naive. I didn't realize that it was going to be that different. So I jump in the water, and it just didn't go all that well. And I ended up leaning on somebody. One of the lifeguards was there, and I put my hand on the surfboard just so that I can catch my breath and get my shit together. And I said, let me just hang out here for a second, and then I'm going to keep going. He goes, oh, no, if you touch the board, you're out. What do you mean? He's like, you're not allowed to get any assistance, so you're out. You're done. So they brought me back into shore, and Dave brought me over and put his arm around me and said, look, like, sorry, you're out. And that was it. That was the end of my competition.
That was the first event?
First event.
Were you fucking just like, holy shit, I prepped for this for a year and now this?
Yeah. That's actually exactly what happened. and you're like, just heartbroken, and it's like, but you came over to me. I don't know if you remember this or not, but you came over to me underneath the stadium. Actually, this is a different circumstance. This is in 2010. There's another story. We're going to go back to that.
Okay.
But in 2011, after this swim event, I get disqualified. I went over to Dave and I said, listen, I don't care at all if my points count. I just don't care. But can I go out on the floor and just compete? Right? I'll just give me zeros for everything, but just let me go down and like, I worked hard enough to get here. Can I just go out and throw down? And he said, absolutely. So I was allowed to.
Oh, they would never allow that now. Damn, you got a soft Dave.
So I just said, so Dave let me go out and compete until the first cut. And then I was taken out of the competition. But as from the crazy low of being disqualified, the exact opposite emotion was like, I forget that the event was a clean and jerk, an increasing clean and jerk ladder with rope climbs.
Yeah, this is the rope clean event. It was kind of like Rich Froning's redemption event. Yeah, that's how most people remember it.
Well, the barbells started at, I want to say 155 and went up to 225, and the workout ended with I think it was one jerk overhead with 225.
Yep.
And because I was disqualified and because my points didn't mean anything and I could go out there and do whatever the hell I wanted, I told one of the guys from Rogue that I was close to, one of the videographers, I said, hey, while you're filming this, like as I get to that last barbell, just make sure you kind of get tight on me. He said, okay. And I went out and I did my first jerk at 225, and then I did a second and a third and a fourth, and I think I did 7 total. just because. And so you ride this like really shitty low, and then you go out there and you pound out some extra reps, and because the pressure is totally off, and I had that high, and people still come up to me when I go to different competitions. People will say, I was there in the stadium where you were doing those extra reps, and it's one of those highlight reels for me personally.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Miko got taken out of that workout too, that ocean swim, and he's basically I want to say professional. Yeah, he's a professional swimmer. I mean, he's a fire rescue guy in horrible freezing cold water conditions, but the water slapped him in the ear and broke his eardrum.
That's right. Yeah, he was throwing up while he was swimming. Yeah.
Well, this is just honestly, it's just sickening for me to hear, because I remember watching that, and I remember the years after when the same little thing would happen to Orlando Trejo. And I remember other years where certain athletes would win the CrossFit Games despite not being able to do one rep of a single workout later in the weekend. And the inconsistency of that, I don't really agree with.
1 year, Neil Maddox got stung. Sorry, Brian, to change the subject. And Neil Maddox got stung by jellyfish. And I actually filmed the whole fucking thing, like when he came out and everything. And then my audio was fucked up, so I couldn't use it in the behind the scenes. But he got worked by a jellyfish. It was during the rehearsal when the night before, when they took all the athletes out to the ocean. And I think while he was out there, he got worked by a jellyfish. I need to have him on the podcast.
He'd be a good interview.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Hey, do you remember in 2010, there was a workout in the stadium that was power cleans and ring handstand push-ups?
Yeah.
And at the time, it was, I want to say it was 185 pound power cleans.
205.
Oh, 205. Okay. And at handstand push-ups, ring handstands, power cleans, like that was a wheelhouse for me. I was looking at that, just saying, like, Chris Spieler was standing next to me during the announcement. And he was like, wow, it's pretty good for you. So I get my hopes up. I go out there on the floor, and the way I've always done ring handstand push-ups is that the rings are at belly button height, and you kick up into the rings, and then you come all the way down. So your hands are down by your shoulders, and then press all the way out. So it would be a deficit ring handstand push-up. The way they had the rings set up at the games was that they were set up about an inch off the floor. So there was nowhere to go. You just kind of like came down, banged your head. It just wasn't the way I practiced it. Never done it before. Have never done it since. But I ended up getting a DNF on that workout.
I do remember.
Okay. Now, do you remember coming up to me underneath the stadium? I mean, after I had a fucking meltdown, like an epic meltdown where I didn't even know what to do. You came over. Do you remember what you said to me?
No.
Okay. You sat down.
Is it in the behind the scenes?
I don't know.
Oh.
It's very powerful. Okay. You sit down right across from me, and you just said, Rob, here's what you got to do now. You have to mentally unfuck yourself.
Oh, yes, I do remember this.
And I'm like, that was it. It actually worked. You got to remove, okay, instant amnesia. That's just gone. It's over there somewhere, and I'm just going to move forward. And in 2010, I was able to, the goal for me going into that weekend and that competition was to be in the last heat on the last day, still competing. And I was in the final heat on the final day, right next to Kalipa, doing rope climbs and all this shit over the walls and all that.
With the DNF.
Yeah.
With the DNF on a workout that he probably could have taken top 5, if not 1, it's one of those things, like, obviously if you can do the deficit ring handstand push-ups, you can do the other one, but you never practiced it, Yeah. And it's almost, it's in a weird way, it's almost like Froning. It's like, yeah, he could climb the rope. He just never practiced it. He didn't know he should be practicing that.
Yep.
And it's kind of, even fast forward to this year at the games. Sure, most of the people competing at the games this year probably have practiced freestanding handstand push-ups. They probably haven't practiced it walking forward and then showing control coming back down into the bottom of the tripod position.
Yeah.
But if you have that same event next year at the games, people are going to blitz through it.
Yeah. Well,
go ahead.
Well, I was going to say in 2010, I had never climbed rope. We didn't have one to climb. And Tommy Hackenbrook showed me how to climb rope underneath the stadium before we went out.
Wait, didn't show Rich.
That ring handstand was like the I haven't seen anything like that since then when we saw the women try to climb the pegboards that one year.
Yeah.
I mean, people were flailing.
Yeah, it was weird. They found a way around it though, right? Where they would arch their back like a
That's
U,
right. It was
right?
They turned it into a bench press.
Right, and then they would do like an incline bench press and then straighten their legs out at the top.
Yeah.
So they found a workaround.
Has that ever been in the games again since then, Brian?
Yeah, 2016, the separator workout, and they had the women low by the mats, like 6 inches off the mats, but the men had to do a muscle up first, get into the top position, and then flip their legs upside down about, 10 feet off the mats.
Yep.
It was pretty crazy.
Wow.
But Rob would have been better in that one.
Yeah, I've actually done that. I practiced that actually.
Rob, tell me, what are the origins of the pig? I saw on your Instagram that you that's your thing.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
So, going back to the pig, for anybody that doesn't know what that is, it's been in the games a bunch of times at this point. But the original one, Brian, do you remember what year that was?
The Burden Run?
The pig.
What was the Burden Run the first time that they did it?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Burden Run should have been 2013.
Okay. So the pig, I wanted something that would mimic a tire flip, but it was scalable, measurable, and repeatable. So the problem with, let's look at barbells, right? If I'm in New York or California or Asia or Australia, right? I can say put 225 pounds in your bar and do 10 power cleans, right? And it's scalable, measurable, and repeatable. We know that we can replicate that across wherever you are. The problem with a tire flip is that nobody has access to my tire except the people in my gym. So it's a real problem, right? Like I can say flip a 500-pound tire, but yours might be 520, mine might be 540, mine has good grip, yours has shitty grip, right? So it's not scalable, measurable, and repeatable. So I wanted to make a device that would mimic flipping a tire that was scalable, measurable, and repeatable. So I drew it up on a piece of paper. Yeah, there it is. I drew it up on a piece of paper.
I mean, that's crazy. That's the original pig. Sorry to interrupt you.
That's the original. That was one of the first test days. Yeah.
And you tested it with all that shit on there?
I wanted to see if it would break.
Durability.
Are there collars on that?
No.
That's why they cut the video off. As soon as he dumps it down, the plates just all explode on top.
How many? Those are 45s on there?
No, I think we went up 25 pounds at a clip, just seeing loading them in different places to see if it would feel weird if it was more on this side or that side. And, so I think we just kept adding and adding and adding as we were going.
And someone made that by hand? That's hand welded?
Yeah. So there's a company in Milford, Connecticut. And I gave this guy the drawings. My brother is a structural engineer. And he introduced me to this guy that said, hey, this company, that we work with all the time, they can weld whatever you want. So if you have something, go ahead and give it to him. So I gave him some drawings and he welded up the first little iteration. And then as soon as I saw it in person, I was like, okay, well, the dimensions are right. It actually feels good, but we needed to give room for somebody to put their fingers underneath it. So we had to put these rails on it and we had to make a couple of little changes. And then I posted up a video and I sent it to Bill at Rogue. And I said, hey, what do you think of this? Is this something that we could make modular and then sell? And he said he passed on it. And I was over
because of shipping. Is it a shipping issue?
I don't know. I mean, he just passed.
Okay.
But I was over in Germany.
Let's revisit the Legends event. I want to say something else about that. Okay, so you're in Germany.
So I'm in Germany, and my phone rings, and it's Dave Castro. And Dave says, "Hey, I saw that flipper thing that you made." And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "That's the coolest fucking thing I've ever seen, and we're going to use that at the games. Is that okay?" I was like, "Yeah." So he went to Bill and contracted to have the green ones built.
Wow. And they've never been sold though,
Didn't
right?
pass on that, huh?
Yeah, so they've never been sold, and the reason why they were never sold is because there was a company called Milo Flipper, Milo Flipper, that reached out to Rogue after the games and said they gave him a cease and desist because they said that we were getting too close to they were infringing on their patent. And so Bill says, "Hey, what do you think of this?" And I was like, "Well, up until right now, I've never seen that thing, and it cost like $3,000 or $4,000." I said, "How many of these do you think they've sold? Is it like the single digits? I mean, who the hell is going to go spend $3,000 or $4,000 on that thing when you can go get tires for next to nothing?" But
they make all sorts of weird shit. Have you seen this tire flip thing that they make?
The half tire?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's stupid.
It does look stupid. I have to tell you, what is this Milo Flipper? I'm looking at it. That thing doesn't look like it would last outside at the ranch.
It's just not the kind of thing that anybody with any sense is going to buy, right? Because it's so absurdly expensive for what it is.
Man,
but
we were never able to produce
that green flip sled that they used for the burner run, so they've never used it again at the games. Is it because of that? Because they made another evolution of it later on.
Right. They gave it some padding. They covered it up. You know, they called it the pig in that first event, but then it's slowly gotten a little bit softer. The idea is there and the functionality is there. Yeah, I mean.
So this is the thing that they said they had a patent for, and you were getting too close to it.
Yeah.
Dude, if this thing got flipped around outside, I think maybe it would take on. I think the ranch would eat this in a week.
Yeah, it's just. Guy's technique stinks.
And then the one that they made in 2015 for with the red padding, etc.
Mm-hmm.
That one could be purchased.
That one, I don't know if that's a competition only thing. I don't think I've seen it on their site. It might be competition only.
Yeah, I mean, I know that Matt Fraser was able to get one after the games that year and practice.
Of course,
but I don't know if anyone could just buy one or not.
Yeah, I don't know if it's actually on their site or if it's just
and now there is actually a company called Flip Sled,
yeah,
or something that makes something similar.
Yeah, the funny thing is that a couple different companies from around the world, obviously they don't have to worry about our patent and trademark laws. They replicated the pig, the original pig. They basically just took the design of having that 6x6 beam down the middle with posts, and so it is being sold worldwide, but it's not one of those things that it's being sold.
Dude, this is one of those tools that you eventually end up regretting buying. Ooh. I hate to say it. This thing sits at this is like.
Here's the thing, okay?
Unless you the Dallas Cowboys, don't buy one of those.
It's just not. It's not a thing that, especially at that price point, like at the Milo Flipper, right? If you're talking $3,000 or $4,000 as a gym owner, that's 10 barbells, 10 good barbells, right? Like,
yeah.
Why in the world would you buy a piece of equipment that costs that much that only serves one person at a time if you own a gym? And if you're working out on your own, why in the world would you invest that kind of money on a thing where you could go to a junkyard and get a tire for free? It just doesn't make any sense.
Right. I agree about the tire thing for sure. Rob, where can we buy your apparel? Your site doesn't have anything but bucket hats.
Yeah. We're actually working on some apparel. We've got a new shirt that we're just about to launch. I'm just waiting for the original order to come in from my printer. But it's pretty simple design. It's the one that we sent you the design. It's mandate exercise. In light of all the different mandates that we're seeing these days.
Wait, who? Oh, you said, oh.
I wish that they had actually mandated
yet.
Exercise, Rob.
Yeah.
I always, I don't say it too often, but I thought it would have been cool if instead of the second stipend check, they just sent everyone an assault bike and you had to enter in your social security number and log 2 hours a week. Otherwise you got a fine.
Yeah. It's one of those things that it seems counterintuitive, counterproductive, that with with an illness that we know attacks people who are out of shape with comorbidities and obese, that we would close down all the gyms. It just doesn't seem all that intuitive.
But you know what? If you close down all the gyms and also send everyone an assault bike that they have to use,
How much is an assault bike?
I don't know.
900 bucks.
Pretty close to the stipend check. I don't care if it's an assault bike, echo bike, concept 2 bike, whatever. Just why is that not a priority if we're dealing with this, like you say?
Hey, it's crazy how.
But so we know the answer to that question, of course.
To get back to the apparel, sorry, that guy's question. Hybridathletics.com. And that's where we're going to start pushing more apparel, but that's where you can get all the other things that we have, the barbell brushes and the stone molds and all the other stuff.
For $100 billion, you can buy every family.
Hey, that barbell brush that you guys make is incredible, by the way. We just got one at the gym, like literally last week, and we had these little Rogue brushes before. Yeah. This thing is 100 times better.
Well, thank you.
Wait, why do you say that? Why do you say it's better? Why?
It's just more effective. It's easier to use. It covers more surface area at one time. It molds to the barbell because you can cuff it around like that. And if some of our barbells are old and whatever, but if you use this on a new barbell, like you chalk up however much you want, you do your Olympic lifting, whatever it is, you take that out afterwards, and it looks pretty much good as new.
So Brian, do you have did you get the steel or the nylon bristles?
Nylon.
Okay. And you have some old barbells that have rust on them?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me send you a steel one, because you can make those old oxidized barbells. You can actually make them brand new.
With the steel?
Literally, they will look like they're brand new.
Damn. Yeah. Well, anyway, I haven't used the steel one yet, but I would love to try it out. But the nylon one, super effective, and I would highly recommend it if you're looking to maintain the quality of your barbell over time.
Yeah, that was an interesting project for me. Like, you can see me there, I'm scrubbing a kettlebell, just like taking the surface crap off of it. And that's with a steel brush.
What if you have really bad acne? Can you use that on your face?
I think you should. Your back? I think you absolutely should.
On your back.
Yeah. But yeah, if you've got a bar, if you live in a place like Florida, where it's high humidity and things just rust over, the steel bristle brush will, like, you can see me there. That's a Castro bar. And that thing just sits in my garage. So it's exposed to everything.
Dude, imagine that rust dust you're breathing in right there. I hope you're holding your breath.
It's good for you.
I'm surprised he's not wearing one of his 5 masks.
No, I had a KN95 in my pocket, but I forgot to put it on.
He broke off the cigarette he broke the filter off a cigarette, and he's just breathing through the filter right there.
So take a look. You just wipe that down, and that surface rust is completely gone. And then you put some 3-in-1 oil on it, and that thing is as good as new.
Sevan, I have to get going, but you should post this comment that Bailey just put up. It's a pretty good one. Rob, dude, it was great to see you, man. I'm pretty bummed that not to have Waza Strong this year, but hopefully in the future.
Well, thank you so much. It was good talking to you and good catching up.
All right, Sevan, I'll catch up with you later.
Okay, yeah.
See you guys.
Okay, bye. I started CrossFit in 2010 when I was 15. Around that time, I saw Rob do Grace at 300 pounds, and I thought he was the strongest man in the world. He what? What do you mean you thought? He was.
Thank you, Bailey. It was that was one of those things that it was at regionals one year. You had to do a 3-rep max clean and jerk from the ground. You had 7 minutes, and you had unlimited attempts to get 3 from when you started, you had 40 seconds to actually complete 3 lifts. And I went out, and I think I took the best score at 285. So I knew that I had taken the top spot, but I really wanted to try 300 to see if I can get 300 for 3 in 40 seconds. And there's a good video of that on YouTube. It's probably in the top 2 or 3 for me in terms of my athletic highlight reel. But I was able to do 300 for 3. But all that did was kind of give me this, put this question in my mind, like, could you do 30 reps at 300 pounds? Like, is that possible? At a body weight of like 185, 190 at the time. Could you continue to do this over and over? So over the course of the next 2 years, I played around with a bunch of different workouts that kind of led me to it. And then one day I just decided, all right, I'm gonna get after this thing. And I did the first 5 really fast, like the first 5 in a minute. And then obviously slowed down quite a bit. And then I think I got to rep 27, and then I missed 28. I missed 28. I missed 28. And I was like, oh, in my head, I'm having a conniption, because I'm like, what if I can't finish this? I'm never going to do this again.
Right.
But I end up eventually getting 28, 29. I finished 30. And it took me forever. It took me, I don't know, probably 25 minutes or so. I don't know how long it took. And since then, there are guys who've done it in, 6 minutes, 7 minutes. I don't know what the score is.
Really? There's someone who's done Grace in 7 minutes with 300 pounds.
Yeah. I know that when that video was originally posted, and Jordan Gravatt, shout out to Jordan, my good buddy. He made the video that went along that CrossFit posted up. People came out of the woodworks like, oh, I could do that. It's like, great. You can do that. You've got a 500-pound clean and jerk, and that's terrific. But, like the whole idea behind CrossFit is that you're not supposed to be a specialist. You're
right.
supposed to be a generalist. And like, yeah, I did 300 pounds for 30 reps, but at the time I was running a 6-minute mile, and I could do 50 consecutive pull-ups. Like, so
right.
It's not, and all that, whatever. People just love to
hashtag CrossFit.
Yeah. So, but I've seen videos of people doing it, like more specialist guys. There's a Wall Street Olympic lifter or Wall Street power lifter. He's on Instagram. I know he recently did Isabel at 330 with 330 pounds.
That's 30 snatches for time.
30 snatches at 330 pounds. So now it's, what was really impressive 10 years ago is just not that impressive anymore.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm sure probably people were doing that shit also too. It's just also now everything's just taped.
Yeah. I mean,
everything's recorded. I mean, you're recording in 4K with the iPhones. If you have adequate lighting, the iPhone is nuts.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Rob, thank you.
My pleasure.
This was way too long. I originally, when I very first started the CrossFit podcast and I was thinking about doing it, and Dave was encouraging me to do it, I remember just rehearse. I was always thinking I wanted Rob Orlando to be my very first guest on that show. And I can just remember like 1,000 times, well, not 1,000 times, but dozens of times practicing interviewing you in the shower. And then for some reason I never invited you, or you never came on that show. And then the other day, George DM'd me and I was like, holy shit.
No,
Rob was supposed to be the first guest I ever had. And the reason why I picked you, because I knew you'd be so fucking easy. You're like Josh Bridges to me. It's a fucking slam dunk. You're like one of my favorite people in the world. I can just hang with you. Like we could fly to the moon and be in the seats next to each other for 3 years and just chill.
Yeah, same thing, Sevan. Like when George grabbed me the other day and said, hey, I just reached out to Sevan. I'm going to send him some stuff. And I told you in our text message, I was like, I heard your name, and it kind of made me happy all over again. And then getting on the show, it's awesome. And, you and I don't know if you remember this, but I flew out to California and I did a podcast with you that never aired. Do you remember that?
No, that was on the CrossFit podcast. So you actually came on.
I was one of the last guys to come out and do that.
Oh, yeah. Like our last.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, yeah. I don't remember that, but that was a really tough time for me.
Yep.
There was some brutal shit going down at CrossFit. That was the first iteration of brutal shit. And basically we had Buddy Leon, which was an amazing podcast. I guess we had you on. There were like 10 there that never aired that were so awesome.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry that you made the trip. That sucks. You flew all the way out there and it never happened.
We got to spend a couple hours together, and I'm sure we did more stuff than just the podcast. So, but like at anytime there's an excuse for you and me to get together and shoot the shit, let's always do that.
Awesome. All right, dude. Have a great day.
You too. Enjoy.